So if you grew up in the 80s to early 2000s, you know that video game magazines were very important. That was how we got all our information. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have the world at the touch of our fingertips. We had to rely on these video game magazines to basically give us our information, tell us if games were good or bad, give us secrets, hints, codes, all that sort of stuff. So video game magazines were very, very important during that time period. And one of my favorites was Nintendo Power. Now, when I was really young, I wasn't able to, my family didn't get me a subscription to it or anything. So I used to go to Goodwill, and Goodwill used to have some for like 15 cents, maybe a quarter at max, of old issues, and I would just stock up on these, and I would, buy 4 or 5 at a time, and then I would go home and read them and just learn all this information and learn about games. And then when I was about in middle school, I finally got a subscription to Nintendo Power that I pretty much kept until the subscription service ended for the magazine. And one of the most important things about video game magazines were the covers, because if it didn't have a fancy cover, if it didn't have something to draw you in, you wouldn't necessarily be interested in that issue. And in my opinion, Nintendo Power had some of the best covers ever. So in this video, I wanted to go over my top 10 Nintendo Power covers of all time, look at them, and just tell you guys why these, issues were important and why this cover art was just so cool. So without any further ado, let's get into the top 10 Nintendo Power covers.
Nintendo Power 12 times a year. 6 great issues plus 6 free strategy guides on a hot new game. That's twice the power for still 15 bucks. Wow, call now.
So coming in at number 10 is a bit of a newer issue in the grand scheme of things, and that was the Indiana Jones and the Staff Kings cover for the Wii. Now, this was a pretty cool cover, honestly. I really liked the attention to detail on here. You had Indiana Jones, front and center with his whip going up into the top of the screen, or the top of the magazine, excuse me, and you had a lot of stuff going on in the background. It looked realistic, but it wasn't realistic. It had that sort of cartoony look to it, and it just looked really cool. It was a way to draw you in. Indiana Jones and the Staff Kings was actually a super decent Wii game. It wasn't great or anything, but it was pretty fun. It made good use of the Wiimote, and it's about a 6-hour game, but you can pick it up for so cheap nowadays, it doesn't really matter. And I just really like this cover. It drew you in. It said, oh, okay, Indiana Jones is back. What is he doing? This is a cool looking issue. So I really enjoyed this issue. Yeah, really good cover art. And I just love the attention to detail on Indiana Jones and all the background stuff itself. It really draws you in. The next issue I picked is Doom 64. Now, Doom 64 to me was a big deal because Nintendo was still kind of in that kiddie era. Yeah, there was Doom on the Super Nintendo, but Doom 64 was kind of like, hey, pay attention to us. And the cover art is just awesome in my opinion. I love the green. I love how it has the player's gun right there in the front shooting at this huge hideous monster that I can't recall his name right now. But just really simple. The text on the sides kind of detracts from it a little bit, but I love the greens. I love the attention to detail on the demon himself. It looks scary, It was a way to kind of show Nintendo fans, hey, if you want Doom and you want a really good experience of Doom, check it out on the N64. Just really well done. Bit simple, but it really got the job done in my opinion, and it just looked really cool. The next issue I picked is the Resident Evil Deadly Silence cover. Now, Resident Evil Deadly Silence to me was a really cool game. It was the full version of the original Resident Evil on the Nintendo DS with some added modes. There was even like a first-person mode where you could use the stylus to slash at the screen. And this is a really cool cover art. You have Jill Valentine right there front and center, and a really creepy, well-designed zombie in the background. You have the red in the background to kind of signify, death, blood, all sorts of things. Very simplistic, but it really got the job done. I like how the zombie is in the forefront, covering up the Nintendo Power stuff. And the character model of Jill looks really well done too. It's like she's playing, she's in the game, and she doesn't know that the zombie is behind her. So that was kind of, one of the interesting things about the game, because, Resident Evil itself is a very creepy game. So really well done cover art here. I love the blood on the zombie, and just really solid, really well done. Next up, we have a classic of Super Mario All-Stars. Now, this was, of course, a Super Nintendo release, and I really like this cover art. You know, it really draws in your attention with all of the colors. You have the blue background, you have the mushroom, the bad mushroom that will, you know, hurt you in the falling down onto Mario there, and you have a fat plumber Mario there. You know, this was at the time when Mario was pretty much just a fat dude, fat and short. And it looks really good. The character animation for Mario is very, very solid. You have the PD Piranha in the background kind of looming. You have the brick blocks. You have the question mark blocks. Just really solid. The colors really stand out, really catch your eye, really draw your attention in. And of course, Super Mario All-Stars was an awesome Super Nintendo game. So this was a really cool cover in my opinion. Next up, we have Donkey Kong Country. Now, this was a big deal for Nintendo because it was one of the most graphically taxing Super Nintendo games, in my opinion. It really had some really awesome animation, and this cover art really exemplifies that animation. You have Donkey and Diddy Kong here, and, you know, really highly detailed. You could see the fur on Donkey Kong there, and the banana coming down, of course. Diddy Kong in the background, you have the snake. It honestly looks like sort of how the game looks, how the game presented itself in terms of graphics. And I think it really gets a good job done of conveying that message that, hey, this is not the standard Donkey Kong, this is a new experience with Donkey Kong Country, and you're going to be getting a whole new graphical experience. And just really solid how it has the jungle in the background, and just a great attention to detail. You know, it really captivates what that game was about, and that's why that makes this list. Up next, we have Batman. Now, this is kind of a personal pick on my opinion. I don't think many other people would have this issue in their top 10, but it definitely gets my top 10 because I like the way they played this out. You have sort of a scary, you know, ominous background. You have Batman looming in the background on the top, and then you have Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Jack Nicholson was my favorite Joker of all time, still is my favorite Joker, and it's clear that, you know, this is just a rip of the actual thing, but just such a good picture of Jack right there. Such a good picture of Jack as, you know, the Joker there. And just a very simple background, very simple design, but it gets the point across that Batman, based on the movie, is going to be on the NES, and it just looks so cool. I just love that grin that Jack has in that picture. It looks, you know, it's a timeless Joker right there. So very, very cool. Batman himself, you know, just looming in the background, creeping, like, I'm gonna come get you, Joker. Really cool, really solid issue, and I really enjoyed this cover art.
Come on, you gruesome son of a bitch. Come to me.
Up next is the Track and Field 2 issue. Now, a lot of people don't talk about this game, you know, who cares about Track and Field 2? But holy crap, this was an awesome cover art. You look at it and it just screams 80s. You have these high top shoes that are just, you know, a bunch of different colors with flames coming out of them, and a racetrack, and just this brooding sunrise, sunset in the background. Just a crazy cover art. Like, it has nothing to do with the game, but if you saw this, you would want to pick up this magazine because you would think that Track and Field 2 was the most insane racing game ever, the most insane track and field game ever. And just really well done. I love the random purples in the background showing the characters, and just the attention to detail on the shoes. Like, I want this pair of shoes. I want a pair of shoes that have flames coming out of them so I could burn people that are walking behind me if they're walking too fast or something. Just really captivating, really gets your attention, and just a really cool cover. The next issue I picked is the Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes issue. Now, this was a remake of the original PS1 game, and although the cutscenes were a bit over the top in some people's opinions, I really love this version of the game. The graphics were fantastic, and this cover art is very, very well done as well. You have Solid Snake right there in the front. You have the snow, which is based on, you know, the environment that they're in the game. You have Liquid Snake, you know, peering in the background. And it's clear that they use this sort of the character model from Twin Snakes in this cover art, but just the grays and the whites, you know, it really conveys that message of darkness and despair on Shadow Moses Island. So really well done. I love the snow. It makes you feel cold. Just a really solid cover art here. and it helps that I really love the game as well. But I think they did a really good job of this. It really got your attention. Like, holy crap, Metal Gear Solid's going to be on the GameCube. What's this about? So it definitely got the job done, in my opinion. Now, my number 2 pick is a lot of people's number 1 pick, but it's my number 2 pick because this is my show. And that will be the Link's Awakening issue. And just fantastic. You can't do graphics pretty much any better than this, except for, of course, the number 1 issue. But I love the sort of bronze in the background. Very simplistic. You have the brooding owl, you know, creeping. Really adds a sense of mystery. Who is this owl? What is he doing? Why is he chilling by the Master Sword? And then the Master Sword, the detail on the Master Sword is just amazing. All of the encrusted jewels. You know, you have a big red jewel at the top. And the Master Sword just looks awesome. You have the blades of grass, which of course are important in a Zelda game because that's where you're chopping down to get your rupees. Just a really solid, ominous cover art. It draws you in, but it doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't tell you pretty much anything about the game, but it's there enough to say, hey, I need to check out this issue. What is going on here? So just, you know, solid top to bottom. There's really no complaints I could make about this cover art. And on most people's list, it will be number 1, and I can see why, but not on my list. And my number 1 issue of Nintendo Power cover art is just badass top to bottom. This was in the early, you know, issues of Nintendo Power. They were kind of finding their groove, and this was a very un-Nintendo cover. So that's pretty much why I love it so much. And that is, of course, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. And holy crap, you just look at this and it's just mind-blowing. You have Simon Belmont there looking scary as hell. Like, even in modern era, that's a creepy looking image. You know, with the heavy armor, you have the sword in one hand, you have the ominous looming, you know, forest in the background, and then bam, Dracula's head in his hand, decapitated. The man cut off Dracula's head and then held it John the Baptist style on the cover art. Like, you don't get any more evil than this. You don't get any more creepy than this. It's just so perfect. The reds and the blacks really symbolize, you know, darkness. You have that light beam in the background, essentially probably the moon or something. Just holy crap. You don't get any cooler than this. Even a little skull in the background. Like, there's just so much death and evil and brooding on this. And he's holding Dracula's head. Like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's such a good cover art. Definitely my favorite, just because of how dark and evil it is. So those are my top 10 Nintendo Power cover arts. Now, I know everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to have a different opinion on things. So let me know which ones you liked, which ones you disliked in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you check out other videos on the channel. Subscribe to my channel if you really enjoy it. And if you really enjoy seeing my face, hit me up on Patreon, and, you know, there's some cool rewards there. I will catch you guys next time. Later.